baseball lifestyle. It's my lifestyle.
I'd have a fun time. We could do a mock thing.
You know who would probably be a great Sith?
Me?
Billy Wagner.
Oh, welcome back to the Ground Screw Podcast. My name is Bill Rahm.
I'm Josh Gerson.
Welcome to the Billy Wagner Podcast.
William Wagner.
So in our last holiday episode, we were talking about movies. We talked about Rookie of the Year. With Rookie of the Year, we talked about a busted arm. We then got to the fact that Billy Wagner, former MLB closer, broke his arm, had to learn how to throw lefty, and threw harder with that side than his right side. Rumor is he also could throw 90 with his right hand, which, again, absolute stud. But then that got us going, and we looked into it, and I asked, is he already in the Hall of Fame? Because he retired in 2010. That was his last season. Let's assume that 2011 or 2012, he actually officially declared I'm done, just to give it room. It's been about 10 years. So he's been on the ballot for a number of years now. And with him being on the ballot, I asked, how many votes did he get? He only got 46% of the last vote. And I'm now here to say that Billy Wagner, more so than even any of the guys that we're talking about with Bonds and Clemens and all this other stuff, because you could tell me that it's steroids is keeping those guys out, and I'd be like, all right, I understand if I disagree. But Billy Wagner is the second best closer in the history of baseball by almost every metric. And he's not in the Hall of Fame, and he hasn't gotten close yet. And here's why I say he's the second best closer in the history of baseball. We know now that wins.
He's not even top 5 according to some websites.
Oh, I know. Oh, I'm aware.
Yeah.
And I have the guys who are above.
Okay.
I have some of the guys who are above, and I have their numbers, and we can run this back.
Bet.
So this becomes a counting stats issue.
Yep.
If you're going based off of number of saves, he's definitely above a lot of guys who are already in the Hall, right? He's got a fair amount more saves than some of the guys who are already in the Hall of Fame. One of those guys who's in the Hall of Fame is Bruce Sutter. Bruce Sutter is in the Hall of Fame. Bruce's last season was in 1988. His last 3 years in the league, he had a 4.4 something ERA. Now, Sutter was fine. But we're talking about a guy in a 12-year career struck out 861 in 1,042 innings. He has a career ERA of 2.83 and a career FIP of 2.94. So the three main stats that we have used for...
How many strikeouts you say?
He in totality?
Yeah.
His total strikeouts for his entire career was 861.
Oh my God.
So he's 200 strikeouts lower, 300 strikeouts lower.
And on the list I'm looking at from Bleacher Report right now, Billy Wagner's 2 places behind that guy.
So Bruce Sutter is 7th, right, on that list. So me and you have seen the same list.
Cool.
Bruce Sutter also has 300 saves. Billy Wagner has 422.
Yep.
So how he is behind him, I don't know. When he struck out more people, his whip was lower, every stat was lower, except he also had more saves. So he's better than Bruce Sutter, who's in the Hall of Fame. So he is in the Hall of Fame, and he is worse than Billy Wagner. So we now know he's worse. So I moved further, right? Goose Gossage, again, way worse numbers than him. Raleigh Fingers, less saves, didn't have the strikeouts, So I had to go to guys who were a little bit more contemporary, who would have crossed over with him to some degree, right?
Yeah.
And the guy I can rate him against is then Trevor Hoffman. Trevor Hoffman has 601 career saves. He's got to be second to Mariano Rivera in that counting stat, right?
In number of saves?
In number of saves.
Yes.
So his career ERA is a 3.08. That is worse than Billy Wagner's. That's his FIP. That's also worse than Billy Wagner's. His career whip is worse than Billy Wagner's. His career strikeouts per 9 innings is worse than Billy Wagner's. And his overall ERA is a 2.87, which is worse than Billy Wagner's. So his only thing he has more of is he has more saves. Why can we not count saves? Because it is a winning stat. I make a save if my team won the game. If my team won the game and got me in a situation where I could be in that setting, I can get a save.
Yeah.
I can accumulate it. You can have the best closer in the league be on the worst team, and he's not going to have more saves because he's just not going to have as many opportunities based off of when he has to pitch.
Yep.
On the flip side, you look at guys who were on stud teams, i.e. Mariano Rivera. Mariano was on the greatest team of his era. They won more than anybody else. So, of course, he was in that. So, Mariano Rivera's numbers should be better than Billy Wagner's, right?
Yep.
Wrong. ERA, he's better. Career ERA 2.21 versus a 2.31 for Billy Wagner. But their FIP, Billy Wagner's is better than Mariano's. Strikeouts per 9 innings, his is better. The only thing that I didn't match up, and I didn't check, and I'm doing that right now with Mariano, is I'm checking his whip, right? Walks, hits per innings pitched. Mm-hmm. His whip is worse than Billy Wagner's. It is a 1, dead to rights, 1.000. Billy Wagner's is under a 1. Billy Wagner is potentially should be having a conversation of the greatest closer ever, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. Guys, explain this to me. Explain this to me.
Well, I'll tell you now. I don't think that conversation will ever be had in the other baseball circles, who are wildly biased often. I can guarantee you that they'll.
So anybody in the New York market will never have that conversation.
For sure. And unfortunately, Billy was in a New York market, so good luck selling that one. Mariano, sure, I can easily say, fine. But I can give you, based on this whole conversation right now, not only should he be a Hall of Famer, he's a top 5 guy.
Top 5 closer in the history of baseball.
Yep. He's got a fantastic career. Anyone who saw him play, you knew he was a dominant guy, and his numbers speak to that.
Dominant.
So I don't know why it's taking so long. I think it also has a lot to do with what we're dealing with on the Hall of Fame process side, and it's like the fact that he only got 40% is kind of ridiculous.
The fact that he got 40% is
because it's
super
not
ridiculous.
that his like we've had this conversation of, oh, if he had a short career but was fantastic for 6 years, like he should be a Hall of Famer. He had an extensive career with some fantastic numbers. Like it's not that the substance isn't there. Well, I mean, how many years was he in the league? 16. It's all there. He's got the 400 plus saves, 1,000 plus strikeouts, like great whip. Like I don't know what we're missing here.
And my point is that every other person I mentioned, Trevor Hoffman, Hall of Fame, Bruce Sutter, Hall of Fame, Mariano Rivera, Hall of Fame, Raleigh Fingers, Hall of Fame, John Smoltz, Hall of Fame. And John Smoltz's career ERA is a 3.33. And as a closer, he was good, but he was not, on average, nearly as good as Billy Wagner was.
So he's been on the ballot, 6 years to this point?
I'd have to look into it.
This is his 6th year on the ballot.
Right.
So this is his 6th year on the ballot.
You have to wait 5
the
years.
fact that Mariano was a first ballot guy, and we have a guy who was nearly identical in everything else except for a counting stat. We in starting pitchers, we now know we have to throw wins to the side to some degree.
Absolutely.
And the guy who really has popularized that is current New York Met Jacob deGrom.
That poor guy.
If he was on a lifetime dominant team.
He had to be on a team in whatever it was 2018 or 19 when he won the Cy Young.
Yeah.
He had to be on a team that could just give him 3 runs per game, and he would have been 30-0.
So again, we now know that wins are not a pitcher stat, right? Mm-hmm. So neither are saves.
Yeah.
Because I have to also, a save is inherently that I won the game. I was the last guy to pitch in a winning endeavor. How have we not separated that from a closer?
You could probably create a stat for a closer that was like a successful outing of like, hey, I came in for one inning where I didn't give up a run or whatever, something to that degree, and then I think you would be a better way to compare like, okay, how good was Mo compared to Billy Wagner? Oh, they each had 500 outings where they gave up no runs type thing. I'm sure that's something that you could compile. We can't do it this second, but
Can't do it this second, but I guess the number I would look at is blown saves in a season.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't look like I have blown saves available for me. I have saves available to me, but I don't have blown saves available to me.
That might be a concept I'll pose to our good friend Corey Fallon. I feel like he could.
Corey could
dig that up,
and I think this is right in Corey's wheelhouse in terms of like the conversations that could be had. But like, guys, am I crazy here? Like, this isn't a hill that I've been dying on with you guys.
No,
we found this out during a show.
Yep.
And are we all befuddled on this?
Honestly, there's a lot of players that are Hall of Fame eligible that it befuddles me why they're not in yet.
Okay.
I just hate the whole process in general.
Yes.
But the fact that he has almost half of the votes percentage-wise, and like that's obviously not enough because they want 75%, but the fact that 75% of people also can't agree on, like, okay, fine, we spent there was a whole ballot or whole year where we didn't give anybody get anybody in the Hall of Fame. This guy is very clearly a Hall of Fame quality guy.
Facts.
So okay, cool. Talk. You want to have the steroid conversation? Fine. Give those guys a different year. Billy Wagner's an easy choice. Like,
yeah. Again, I'm really lost on this because the thing for me is the comp for me is he pitched at the exact same time. So again, Trevor Hoffman pitched more years. He had 18 seasons, right?
Yep.
And in 18 seasons, he achieved a career WAR of 28. Billy Wagner's career WAR is a 27.7 in 2 less seasons. And his 1995 season, he got 1 batter out.
Who's that?
Billy Wagner in his first year, his rookie year, he got out 1 batter. So truly, he did it in 15 seasons. Trevor Hoffman pitched in his first and his last season more than 50 appearances. So Hoffman came out in 1993 as a rookie,
mm-hmm.
and he was a 25-year-old, and he pitched 90 innings that year. Billy Wagner's first year, he only threw a couple innings. His literally 0.1 inning.
And then his second year he got 50, and then he started climbing from there.
But like that's what. So what I'm saying is that in 15 seasons, truly, in 15 seasons, you're talking that this person put up a WAR that Hoffman did with 3 extra years in terms of WAR.
Not for nothing. In 1998, he came in 4th in Cy Young voting.
Billy Wagner is the biggest. This is the biggest slight. Like no one else that I can think about in baseball right now, like Curt Schilling, who is considered a borderline guy in terms of what he can do, right? Like Curt Schilling's career ERA is a 3.46.
Oh, I know a lot of people are like
his FIP is a 3.23. His WHIP is a 1.1. His strikeouts per 9 is an 8.6. Now, I get that they're not the same position,
mm-hmm.
but Billy Wagner is in the conversation for the best or at least the second best to ever do this. And we're talking about a guy like Schilling has more of the vote, I'd assume. And Schilling's not, to me, in the top 50 pitchers of all time.
So this is Kurt's this upcoming year is his last year on the ballot. And he's at 71%.
Curt, to me, honestly, is the Hall of Very Good. Like, Curt Schilling, to me, is the Hall of Very Good.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 6 All-Star appearances, right? And in those 6 All-Star appearances, on those seasons, only 2 of them were a sub-3 ERA. So he had 4 All-Star appearances with a low to mid-3 ERA.
He played on good teams those years.
And he played on good teams. And that was back when we cared about the fact that you won. So he made it.
Do me a favor, look up Scott Rollins stats. I want to get your thoughts on it. If he's Hall of Fame or Hall of Very Good.
Scott Rowland?
Yeah. Because he has more percentage votes than Billy Wagner.
I also have a very weird stat going along the closer line.
Sure.
So I just went down a rabbit hole while you guys were talking. Eric Gagne, 84 consecutive saves converted.
Yep.
That 3-year stretch where he was one of the best closers on the planet, he pitched exactly 82.1 innings every single one of those seasons. Just very weird.
So can you answer me a question? In that time, what was his ERA?
So 2002, he was a 1.97. His 2003, 1.2, and 2004, 2.19.
So that was one of the guys who I saw was not on the list of top 10 closers all time, and I remember Gagne being an absolute stud
machine.
So what's his total numbers all time?
So his career ERA is a 3.47,
and that's it. He was dominant for a stretch, but he wasn't dominant for a career.
Mm-hmm. He got busted for PEDs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And that's when people kind of soured on him.
Definitely.
All right, so I have a point of contention with Scott Rollins.
Okay.
Idea.
Go for it.
And let me just make sure I pull him back up because I have a whole list of things that I have a problem with
Okay.
Scott Rollins. Scott Rollins is, to me, the Hall of Very Good. So, again, we want to talk about guys. We got to look back, and we have to say that one of the people that I look at truly as an elite player is David Wright. But David Wright got hurt in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
In 2014, all of his things went away. So his age 30 season, he was an all-star.
Yep.
He had a 904 OPS. He batted 307. From that point forward, his best year was a 289, 814 OPS. But he only played in 38 games the year the Mets went to the World Series. So he has 4 years of stats that he accumulated, where in those 4 years he hit a grand total of 20 home runs in those 4 seasons.
Who was that, David Wright?
David Wright. So if we really stopped counting him at 2013, from 2004 to 2013, so 2004, his rookie year, he played in 69 total games. And he had an 857 OPS as a rookie, so better than Wander Franco. So he was Wander Franco as a rookie, and then in his very next year, he had a 912 OPS, batted 306, hit 27 home runs, had 17 stolen bases, 42 doubles, and he didn't make an All-Star game. Now, if the Mets had any player with those numbers right now, that guy would be like MVP quality. We're talking, he had...
Who's that, David Wright?
David Wright. So my point to you is, when I look at Rollins' career batting average is 281. David Wright, with the last 4 years, him playing with no neck, his career batting average is 296. Rollins got 316 home runs. David Wright, if you said in 10 years, he hit 220. Rollins played legitimately, was still playing into his age 37 season.
Yep. He had 92 games that year, which is his final year.
And even if we say that those two were very, very similar through a long, extended window, David Wright was always the better player over Scott Rollins. So this goes back to, what are we looking for when we're saying a guy's a Hall of Famer in baseball? Because to me, Scott Rollins is the Hall of Very Good. Nothing I look at says to me, this guy was elite at his position at any time. Because if I look at any of these numbers, there was always a better third baseman than him in baseball.
There was a stretch from 03 to 06 where he was an all-star.
03 to 06, he was making all-star games, and they should have been going to David Wright.
Or, I mean, he might have also been in there. I don't know when David Wright. But, like,
David Wright was not there in 03, right? But in 04, as a rookie, he had 14 home runs, batted 293 with an 857 OPS. The next year he was a 912. The next year he was a 912. The next year he was 963. The next year he was a 924. And in all of those years, his worst batting average was 293 and his best was 325. So when we're like lining up the homie, he was not better than David Wright, and he was making all-star games, and I wouldn't have given him to him over David Wright. If I could go back in time, his numbers don't comp out.
Trying to see here where Kurt Schilling retired in 2007.
Because 05, he made the All-Star game in St. Louis's National League. He made the All-Star game in 2005, and David Wright did not. And David had a 900-plus OPS, and Scott Rowland had a 706.
In what year?
2005.
Yeah.
So when David Wright came into the league, he effectively ended Rowland being anything. And Rowland at that point in time, his best year, he never had a better season than David Wright for the rest of his career. So from the time he was 29 until he ended his career, he was never better than David Wright. And that's my point. You and if I wanted to go before that, who's better than Scott Rowland? It's Chipper Jones.
Chipper's a goat.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
If I really gonna comp Scott Rowland, my case starts with Chipper. Again, Chipper a 300 career batting average. If I go back to that same stretch from 03 on, Chipper 920 OPS, 850 OPS, 968, 1005, 1029, 1044, 818, 806, 814, 832. Chipper's the guy. If you're going to comp that against each other, it's Chipper and David. And Chipper has everything to say that he's better than both of those guys. Mm-hmm. He did it longer, and he did it to some degrees better. Now, Scott Rowland was a really good defensive catcher, but David Wright was a multiple-time Gold Glove award winner. He won 2 Gold Gloves. And again, if we really look at it, that means 20% of the
Scott has 8 at third.
He was a really good defender. But I tell you, David Wright, I thought was a better defender. But baseball sucks that once a guy is known as being the guy, back in that time, everybody, we'll just keep giving it to the same dude. Because we're not actually watching all of these guys play.
I mean, right now in the NL, we just give the third base Gold Glove to Nolan Arenado.
Yeah,
here.
And Nolan's a stud. Listen,
beast, 100%.
I get he probably is the best defensive third baseman in the game.
So for 100%, rightfully so. But if somebody brings in who is the Gold Glover for the American League, Chapman, probably. If Chapman comes over to the National League, you got to great.
Javi Baez moves to third.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I got to start having different conversations about what's happening with stuff. Mm-hmm. So separate from all of that, then you got to go and say at that same time, Alex Rodriguez was the third baseman.
Yeah.
So in what world are we going that Scott Rowland? My fault. In what world are we going that Scott Rowland is one of the top 5 at his position ever? And we're talking about the comp out is against Billy Wagner. None of the guys ahead of Wagner, except for Bonds and Clemens, have any claim to, if you pulled my stats up and put them against who's considered the GOAT, I don't measure up. Rowland doesn't measure up to Chipper. Outside, he was a great defender. He doesn't measure up to peak David Wright. He was a really good player. David Wright was a better player. Now, I know David didn't play the length of time that's going to require him to be a Hall of Famer based off of their criteria. But David Wright was one of the top 5 players in the game for a decade.
Yeah.
Scott Rowland was a really good third baseman for a decade.
You know what I think it is? Because right below him on the voting is Omar Vizquel. Okay. So I think if Scott Rowland, really solid hitter, really great fielder. Omar Vizquel, average hitter, legendary fielder.
But Omar's classified as a third or as a short?
I'm going to guess shortstop.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying more of from the Hall of Fame's perspective of okay, cool, we're going to get these legendary defenders into the Hall for you know what I'm saying?
Why do they all sit in their little baseball writers meeting at the All-Star game and you go, you know who we're going to vote for this year, guys? You're not allowed to vote for anybody who could hit the ball. We're going all defensive this year. You guys got it? Deal. Good. Go. And it's what is wrong with y'all? Just vote for who legitimately was the better player.
So would you
have trends that we're going to vote for?
Numbers aside, Omar Vizquel, 11-time Gold Glover. You think he's a Hall of Fame player?
No.
Really?
Hall of Fame is you were the guy all the way across the field.
11-time Gold Glover.
Again, an 11-time Gold Glover is an all-defensive position.
Yes.
What's Omar Vizquel's career OPS? I'll give you a rough estimate. I'll tell you it's under 700.
That's correct. It's 688.
He could not hit. If he played today, he would be a backup.
But that's why I'm saying
688 gets you benched. What's his career batting average?
272.
Yep.
This dude couldn't hit.
That's what I'm saying. It's
So my point is he a Hall of Famer? No. He's the Hall of Very Good. You were electric at one thing in the whole position.
And that's why we go back to the conversation.
Is Jose Canseco a Hall of Famer?
No, and also the
PEDs. But my man, well, separate that. He wouldn't.
But the Hall of Fame doesn't.
He wouldn't even be in the conversation regardless. But there's like stolen base home run seasons that he's one of 5 guys to ever do. Like it's like Shohei Ohtani, Barry Bonds, Trout, Jose Canseco, and somebody else. Like, put the names we just said with Jose Canseco. We don't have that because he could just hit. So we have this thing that's this completely subjective, which is the Gold Glove, because Derek Jeter's a trash defender,
Correa
but he's a trash defensive player. Correa is right. He's saying what's truthful. We all know what the analytics say. If your analytics today look like what Jeter's did, Jeter wouldn't have played shortstop. He would have gotten moved to second.
Yeah.
Be real. If he wasn't a Yankee and they didn't have the success when he was young, he would have got moved off the spot. Every statistic would have told you Alex Rodriguez should have been your shortstop.
Yep.
So there was no baseball decision that made Derek Jeter stay at short. So separate that. That goes back to my point. You're talking 1980s, 1990s. This was all like old school scouting and reporting of who was good at things.
Yep.
So no, to me, line up Omar Vizquel, and what do I got? I've got a subjective award that's voted on based on my perception of how good somebody was defensively. There was no measure that then had me looking at it and saying, hey, this dude is the best defender of all time. You're now looking back and going, well, he won all these awards. Well, so what? Michael Jordan won a whole bunch of MVP awards. You know what they stopped doing with LeBron? Giving them to him because they got bored. They started to just, the idea became if a guy won more than a few times, we got bored and we moved on to the next guy. LeBron James could have won 10 consecutive MVP awards. He made it to 10 consecutive or 9 consecutive championship games. He was the best player in the league for a decade. No doubt the most valuable player in the league. Why didn't he win more awards? Because it was completely subjective and it's based off of voter opinion, especially by writers who have proven themselves to be softer than butter in an oven.
All right, so let me ask you this then. You've said repeatedly that like if a player is good in X window, like top tier, best in the league at a thing,
sure,
they could be in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
Since I'm speaking at this as you're going to bring Omar Vizquel in because of his defense. He was a Gold Glover from.
I need stats.
Fine, whatever.
You can't give me an award.
Whatever. His fine. His percentage for fielding was 980.
No, I need. Again, that's. I need UZR. I need things like that. Like that's my point. There's nothing that I'm looking at, and I can look at ultimate zone rating, and I can look at him defensively and say, how did he do? You're giving me subjective stat. Fielding position. If I stand and I'm a wall, and I can't move more than one step to my left or one step to my right, but I field 100% of the things hit to me. My fielding percentage is 100%.
Sure.
Am I a great defender?
Yeah, you make the plays.
No, I make no plays outside of a step here, step. This is me. Any ball hits down the line, I never get to. I don't have the range. Any ball hit outside of this little step right here, I will never field because I don't want my percentage to drop. So I don't even try, and it goes past me. It's a hit. A good defender would have made the play. This is the idea that when we used to, as Mets fans, you watched Jose Reyes play shortstop and you watched Jeter at the same time, and Jeter's winning Gold Gloves, and everybody's laughing because it's very obvious that Jose Reyes is the best defensive shortstop in the game by like an obscene margin. And he had a cannon that he would throw guys out from the grass and throw them out at first base. And Derek Jeter would struggle to come forward on a ball and throw somebody out at first base. Yeah, your fielding. That's why again, if you're gonna come, I need more from Vizquel.
The only reason I'm using Gold Gloves as the metric, and it's not a metric, is because the people that are going to make this decision, not being us, do look at that. And from 1993 to 2001, he was the Gold Glove shortstop.
So I'll give you better though. In his 24-year career, he made 3 All-Star games.
Yeah.
Not a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
You're saying 3 All-Star games in 24 seasons. What's Adrian Beltray? So I think Adrian Beltray is a really, really good player. But he was never better than David Wright. He was never better than a whole litany of guys. But he played a 21-year career. He made 4 All-Star games. And he was a 5-time Gold Glover. He hit 477 home runs. He has a 286 career batting average. But his career OPS is only 819. And when I look at everything, and I have to look at all that stuff, what is he a Hall of Famer? David Wright made 5 straight All-Star games, 7 in an 8-year span. 7 All-Star games in an 8-year span, 1 Gold Gloves in that time, finished in the MVP voting 6 times in his career. Like, oh my gosh.
So would you, if you were going to pick Hall of Famers, would you only use stats?
I think that to some degree, the stats don't lie.
Sure.
From who you were. And at some point in time, like baseball is the most analytics-based game. The second most analytics-based game is basketball now. That's why guys don't try to dunk a basketball. They shoot threes.
Right.
It's worth more. It changed the entire landscape of that game by utilizing analytics. So my thing is that when I look at it, I have to look at how good were you compared to everybody else in that window.
So can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Open up Nolan Arenado stats.
I know where you're going, and I would say yes.
So my question is for the people who aren't as foreseeing as you are, is he already a Hall of Famer?
Nolan Arenado is David Wright.
He's probably better than David Wright if we're being completely objective here.
I think you're wrong there.
Okay.
And that's my point.
Look, he has like Albert Pujols home runs.
Hold on. His career OPS is 880.
Yeah.
He has not gotten to the point that you got with David, where David's injury sapped it and then pulled the average down.
Sure.
If you stopped it in 2013, David Wright's career batting average was like 305, and David Wright's career OPS was 900.
And how many years in the league was that?
That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, so Nolan's at 9 years in the league right now with the 288.
So they're literally the same player, and that's my point that I'm trying to make.
How many home runs did David have at like rough average per year?
There was a stretch of time where he averaged 35 plus a year.
Cool. Nolan Arenado won a Gold Glove every year he's played baseball in the major leagues. Every single one.
Again,
I'm just adding to his
again 100%. Go for it.
He led the league in RBIs twice, back-to-back years with 130. Led the league in home runs also both those years. He's been an all-star 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, 7 times. What else can I give you? Bottom line, I think he's on track to be a Hall of Fame third baseman.
So again, sure. what we also have to take into account, that's a real thing,
yep.
real thing, is that his numbers are going to drop off precipitously now.
Why?
Because he played from 2014 through 2020 in Colorado.
Sure. But
so
his first year in St. Louis, All-Star, Gold Glover, 34 home runs, 105 RBIs.
What was his OPS?
807.
Dropped off a cliff. We're talking about a guy with a career OPS average of 880.
Sure.
Dropped 80 points in OPS. most of his OPS from 2015 through 2019, his quote-unquote peak years, were 900-plus OPS seasons where he was hitting a ton of home runs in a park known to allow a ton of home runs.
Sure.
He left and went to a place where you don't hit as many, and he became much more human. Outside of his 2020 where he was hurt, and it was the COVID years, and it was a whole bunch of stuff, that was his worst season since he was a 23-year-old.
Okay, fine.
So he's fell off. My point is, they are most likely the same player. And that is my point. I think David Wright's
How many years did David play?
He played 14, but we said
Sure.
4 of the years. One of the seasons that counted in his career, I'm pretty sure he played no games.
It'd probably be his last
His
season.
2018 season, he played in 2 games and had 3
Right,
appearances.
his
They're counting
yeah.
that. 2017 he did not play.
So full seasons.
full actual
Or like
full
whatever,
se-
enough games for
I'm
you to
saying
count that he played.
over 200 plate appearances,
Sure.
11 years.
Okay. So at some point, Nolan's going to have the same career as David, and they'll be comparable.
And they're gonna look comparable. Arenado will have a very similar OPS to David, especially now that he's out of easy money. Like we know, guys. Like for me, Citi Field, Shea Stadium's huge,
Yep.
right? Huge.
Yep.
912, 912, 963, 924 OPS playing inside that massive park. He hit 33 home runs one year and 42 doubles.
So
He hit 75 double or better, 75 doubles and home runs combined, right? When you look at Nolan this past year, 68. My point is, power hitting. Nolan Arenado is the closest thing I can rep out to. That's who I think David Wright was.
So and you compared David Wright a bunch to Scott Rollins, right?
I think he was just a better offensive player.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I could see a world where Nolan Arenado is compared to Scott Rollins based on how his voting's going so far and like their career numbers and what he's done and things like that. So I think they're all
way better. He's way better than Roland, though.
So that's what I'm
because
saying.
Of hitting.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying to you, the only thing that would hold back Nolan Arenado at this point is injury.
Yep.
Because he's just got to get to what amounts to, I played 15 years.
Yep.
Because we know the counting stats matter so much to the whole thing.
Yes.
Right? But even if he hits an 820 OPS for the next 3 years, that's going to mean he roughly hits close to 25 to 35 home runs, a bunch of doubles. He's going to be close to a Gold Glove level player. When that's all said and done, he's gonna be close. Because then you got to start going into the guy that everybody comps out as one of the best third basemen is like a guy like Mike Schmidt.
Yep.
Right? So what's Mike Schmidt's like lineup? He won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He won 10 Gold Gloves. And again, this is where I get upset about the Gold Glove thing. Like you guys are telling me that legitimately, like I know nobody was watching him in 1977 nationally. So how do you vote him as like he was just getting it because of reputation? We weren't paying attention to real things. So like it's so convoluted there. But Mike Schmidt was a accidental curse. Accidental curse. Mike Schmidt was a 908 career OPS, and that's where I think my man is going to end up being. But again, bandbox. He was playing in Philly. Played his career in a small park where he got to just crush home runs, tank shots. So I would say Mike Schmidt is the guy that Arenado is chasing. And I would say the reason why Chipper got in was Chipper had better numbers hitting-wise than Mike Schmidt.
That's exactly. It seems like in the third baseman category, you're one of two things. You're either a really good fielder and we'll bring you in, or a really great hitter and we'll bring you into the Hall. If you're in the middle, then it's going to be on the writers to be like, oh, like were you good enough of a fielder to be like in that category of those guys?
I think, and that's why I'm saying I think it's the Mike Schmidt rule.
Yeah.
He 10 Gold Gloves, and you have a career 900 OPS. You're considered maybe the greatest third baseman of all time.
I mean, his numbers are crazy. So like I get he's the peak, fine. then it's after that which category
and that becomes my thing. When you look at Rollins, I just don't think he was as dominant as a fielder. Right? So all of the numbers as he have, it's great, it's fine. But he was just so much more substandard as a hitter, comparable to other guys in his era. Again, we're talking Adrian Beltray won 5 Gold Gloves.
So, like, I'm looking at from the peak fielder side.
Yeah.
It's probably Brooks Robinson from, like, what the Hall people will look at. 18-time All-Star, 16 Gold Gloves, All-Star MVP, World Series MVP, career 267 hitter. Now, he had 2,800 hits, but that was in, 20 years or something like that? Yeah.
That's why I junk the Gold Glove thing, because it's so subjective. There's no analytic that allows you to get... Like, you want to win the Triple Crown, you know what the line of demarcation is, right? Like, we know what the number... Like, you have to lead in this, and this, and you get this.
Yep.
You're known as this, right? But, like, we don't talk about Silver Slugger awards the way we talk about...
No, we definitely don't.
Gold Gloves?
Nope.
But why is nobody talking about winning Silver Sluggers?
Because gold is better than silver.
Well, but, like,
what are the actual, like... what's the stats and things that equate for the Silver Slugger? Like, you're just the best hitter at the position?
You're considered the best hitter at the position.
That one's determined by coaches and managers, though. That's not like a writers voting on it.
Well, what's the same thing with Gold Glove?
Is it?
Gold Glove isn't the writers.
Yes, I think that's true.
I think Rollins chooses that.
Major league managers and coaches, yeah, okay. They're only allowed to vote within their league as well, and they can't vote for players on their own team.
Yeah. So, like, you're looking at like again.
So just to point out, the Cardinals had 5 Gold Glovers this year.
Yeah.
That's insane. That is insane. And that's how they got where they did.
So then you look at, like, Nolan Arenado. He's a 4-time Silver Slugger.
Yep.
David Wright, 2-time. Right?
Yep.
So, like, that's where I say to you, like, the answer to me is yes. Right before you even ask the question. Mm-hmm. To me, Nolan Arenado is. Because my rule is, were you better than David Wright? Because, again, I think that if David Wright did not have the neck injury and fall off the cliff, the dude's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I think he's going to be the Hall of Very Good. I don't think he'll ever get in.
Nolan?
No.
Oh, David. Yeah, for sure.
Now, he may get in from, like, players voting and all that, the rest of that down the line. I don't think he ever gets in. You don't think so?
I don't think there's no world where you would have to completely change what you look at.
Yeah.
And you'd have to say, hey, was there a stretch of time where you were the best player in the game?
I think it also, too, was, like, because of his injuries and things, he kind of went quietly.
He also went quietly, but he went bad.
Right.
You were struggling to perform.
Yeah.
So, like, our last memories of David Wright is this person. And the reality is David Wright wasn't normal since 2013.
Yeah.
And he retired in 2018.
Yeah.
He spent 5 years hanging on by a thread because in his mind, he knows what I know. For a 10-year run, I was the best player at my position in the game.
Yep.
And I was on a Hall of Fame path. I was most likely in my ages 31 through 35 seasons. There's a shot that I'm putting a MVP on my mantle.
Mm-hmm.
And it gone.
Yep.
Disappeared into the ether for him. So he hung on, 1, to make sure he was getting his money, right?
Yep.
But 2, he knew who he was going to be if he had stuck around. But he's a better player than Adrian Beltray. But Adrian put together this really, really great collection of stuff across a 20-year career. I think Adrian's on the cusp. But again, I'd say Hall of Very Good.
Yeah.
And to me, Beltray and Rollins are the same players.
I think at some point they'll probably both get in.
And
I think Adrian probably more easily than Rollins will.
And that's fine. And I wouldn't fight if those guys are. I think my bigger issue is Billy Wagner is not in.
Billy, the fact that the real issue is he hasn't gotten in fast enough.
He hasn't
What year? He's his 6th year on the ballot?
Yes.
Yeah, that's too long. And the fact
that, like, we're, like, literally, when you actually sit back and you break this thing to F down, he's the second greatest closer in the history of this game, who threw 101 miles an hour, struck out 13-plus guys per inning. Like, he was a better strikeout machine than Mariano. Like, there's no real statistic that I can look at separate from saves that shows that anybody's better than him.
Who was other than Jeter and Mo, who was the last guy to get in their first year? Do you know?
Let's see if I can look
See
it
if
up.
you can pull that up, Dennis Dietz.
Griffey? I nailed
Maybe.
it, didn't I?
Probably wouldn't
I
shock
nailed
That
me.
would
it.
probably be.
I
the
nailed
one.
Would not
didn't
shock
I?
me.
I nailed it, didn't I?
All right. Every first ballot Hall of Famer in MLB history. Derek Jeter, class of 2020.
Sure.
Mariano Rivera, 2019. Roy Halladay, 2019. Chipper Jones, 2018.
So there you go.
Jim Thome, 2018. Ken Griffey was 2016.
Okay.
But like there's a lot of first ballot Hall of Famers.
So I was more looking to see like what the caliber is.
So then here is the I guess the case I will make. Right? Here's the case I will make. I can't change my position. I am who I am.
right.
If my position is accepted as Hall of Fame worthy, which every position is,
Yep.
your then classification is where were you rated against everybody else and where are you rated against the all-time? And Billy Wagner is better than Chipper Jones. As crazy as that sounds,
At his position, yes.
at his position, we're talking he's number 2.
He's going to end up being 3 to 5 because he doesn't have the save numbers.
But
If we're looking at it through the lens of the writers.
But separate that. He's the guy who's considered number 3. He's got more saves than.
Who was that?
No, Trevor Hott. So the guy Dennis Eckersley, who's considered number 2,
Yeah.
has less saves than Billy Wagner.
That's what I'm saying. He's going to be ending up in the 3 to 5 range. He's probably
But like, how has he got? How is he?
He's
considered-
probably, you know what? He's probably actually, in reality, probably looked at as 5 to 7.
and that's I get that that's what he's looked at,
Yeah.
right? And I
Which is still get him
I
in the
can
Hall of Fame.
completely-
Like,
I can completely conceptualize, right?
Yep.
But we're now talking about like Dennis Eckersley had less saves. He also pitched in 24 years of baseball.
yep.
He had a 3.5 career ERA. He was a starter at the early part of his career.
He started for the first 12 years of his career.
So-
And he also won an MVP award as a reliever, which you don't see very often. That's Eckersley.
But like that's my point. You're winning MVPs. Was it 1990?
It might have been.
1990, my man pitched in 63 games and had a .61 ERA.
That's ridiculous.
And he had 73 strikeouts and 73 innings. Listen, that's nasty.
Yep.
I'm here for you. But as a whole, right, I got to see your other years, and I'm stacking them up. And
So, regardless, if you even, for funsies, said he's number 5 all time, that should be a Hall of Famer by, call it his 3rd year on the ballot. Sure.
and that's fine. So then you should get in as fast as Chipper did.
Yes.
What did Chipper get in?
Chipper got
So you said Chipper
First
first
ballot.
ballot.
Hall. My point.
Yeah.
My point is, you're top 5 of your position all time. This is an underrepresented thing.
Can I also just make an argument because I'm looking at this list of people that were first ballot, for example,
Yeah.
and you notice like 90s, once you get to like mid 2000s, it starts becoming less and less frequent. I think the biggest issue now with baseball is all these writers are constantly talking with each other, and I think it's forcing them to have the same opinion on a lot of these players.
1,000%.
Yep,
It's the trend line. That's me
Yep.
said. They sit in their little room and they talk to each other at the All-Star game and they decide how they're going to impact the history of the game together.
Well, even
And it's a joke.
And you know what? Because social media exists now, there's a magnifying glass on their decisions. And people come at X, Y, and Z reporter and get
yeah, I'm
blocked and all
banned
these,
for not even talking to a guy.
and like they're sharing their opinion. They're like, "Cool, my opinion's right, and I can tell you to F off because I don't want to hear it."
But those are the guys who are solving this, and they're missing out on a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame already.
And they take there's so much like hubris in their opinion.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Billy Wagner was a Met for 3 years.
Yep.
He was with Philly longer than that. I don't care. The dude was dominant. He, statistically, as a reliever, has the second best stats in the history of the game. and I could argue with you that he's close to being the best in the game ever. Eckersley had a whole bunch of 4 ERA seasons as a reliever. Yeah, did he get those after he was an older player and his arm started to come down? Sure, I'm fine. Go for it. But then you also got to take away some of the other stats he has. You got to pull away career strikeouts, and you got to pull away career wins. Like, things have to go away if you're going to say that a guy got older. Like, you can't use both sides of that argument. And that's again my point with, like, guys who were dominant for 10-year run. You should be a Hall of Famer. If you were All-Star 7 out of 10 times, you're one of the great. People should remember you.
Yeah.
You were better than almost everybody else for a full-ass decade. That's why, to me, Nolan's an easy score.
Mm-hmm.
And he proved this year that, yeah, while his numbers probably were inflated, he still, if he was able to put together the seasons he just did on top of his Gold Glove caliber stuff, he's better than Rollins.
Yeah. I could see Arenado actually being a first ballot guy.
Joe, he keeps
If he
this
keeps it
up?
up, absolutely.
Absolutely. But, like, the question is, do you fade before you fade? Do you dip out before you fade and leave a great taste in everybody's mouth?
Who's the last player to do that, you think?
What?
That left on top. Or not even on top, but, like, before they declined, they said...
Billy
cool.
Wagner.
Yeah?
Look at Billy Wagner's last year, like, legitimately. Like,
He had a 1.43 ERA in 70 innings.
Like, that's...
With 37 saves.
And, like, yeah.
104 Ks.
104 Ks.
A whip of a .865.
So, like, his last season, he was the best closer in all of baseball. And we're like, we forgot that because my guy just was like, I'm done. But he could have gone and put together probably 3, 4, 5 more years.
Yeah, he had I was reading, he had an oblique injury, and he said, cool, I'm outie.
But, like, he's been punished for not pitching for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, he pitched for 16. That's
But
really
like,
good.
He's like, in general, right, we talked about it. He only pitched one.
Sure, fine, 15.
He got one guy out his rookie year. He pitched only 15 seasons, and it seems like he's been punished for going out on top.
Maybe.
That he didn't do a tour.
Oh, he sort of did a tour, it looks like, because in the game that he got his 400th career save, he told people he's retiring at the end of the season.
But, like,
even
he
so,
dominated till the end.
Yeah.
And, like, everybody's like, oh, why did you not just decline gracefully?
He was an All-Stars final year.
Like, come on, man.
Yep.
Like, that's my point. We're going to watch Albert Pujols be remembered as a shitty player by a generation of kids. Because he's forcing himself to, like, just carry on for the dollars. And to try to maybe hit these counting stats that don't matter. He is a better hitter. Albert Pujols is a better player than Mike Trout. And it won't get remembered that way.
Nope.
But Mike Trout can't hold his jock as a hitter. And it's not going to be remembered. But you know what, Pujols? Oh, yeah, well, look at his. Oh, you played 21 years. Excellent job. Here's your thing. Roy Halladay. The only reason why Halladay got the treatment he got is because it was posthumously.
Yeah.
It was
he was a great pitcher.
Great pitcher. However, when you really start to line up his numbers, he didn't have the longevity that other people have.
As we all go to look up his stats.
We've done this before. We've looked up Roy.
Yes, we definitely have it.
Again,
16-year career.
16-year career at 3.38
but the dominance, the 3.3 ERA, that's not the guy we're remembering.
2 Cy Youngs.
We're remembering the guy from 2005 on. Because Roy Halladay at that point in time was the Max Scherzer of that generation.
He was the Max Scherzer of our generation from like 02 to 11.
Right, but like look outside of that. He was fine. And even in the 2002 that you said, like he hit 3.25 and a 4.2. Right?
Yeah.
Like
he was just a workhorse.
Those two, he won 22 games for Toronto.
Yeah.
With a 3.25. He made 36 starts.
Yep.
That's the guy. That's what we're talking about. His winning percentage in 2006, 762. He stepped on the mound. He was going to win. So he gets the benefit of the fact that the team was winning around him. Mm-hmm. Then he transitioned to a good Phillies team. Dominated with the Phillies for a stretch of time. But really, he had a 10-year run. Mm-hmm. He made 8 All-Star games, right? No, 9. He made 9 All-Star games in a 10-year window or an 11-year window. Like, my point is that when we really look at that guy, he gets remembered because of the longevity, but the beginning and the end is like fabricated like greatness.
Yeah.
The real stretch of greatness is a 10-year run. That's why, again, I look at it. Arenado, to me, is already a Hall of Famer. Like, his 10-year run, I could put against so many other guys who are already in the Hall.
Oh, easily.
But so he has to play so that, like, the years match up, and it makes it easier to apples it. Mm-hmm. Throw that out. Like, look at anybody's 10-year stretch. Find your, whatever you want to be. Find my 10-year stretch. Who is dominant lifetime numbers? Arenado, to me, is a guy who's already in. And, again, you look at Billy Wagner. That homie should already be in the Hall of Fame. And yep. I did not know until we talked about movies and baseball. Mm-hmm. Because that's obscene.
Yes, it is kind of ridiculous upon further review.
Are you guys as outraged as I am? And if you are, please leave a comment. Like, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Am I crazy, or is Billy Wagner the current biggest snub that doesn't have a steroid thing hanging over his head? See you next time.
Later.
Baseball lifestyle, it's my lifestyle.